This episode is sponsored by Kiteworks. Hello, everyone. This is your host, Manoj Tandon, with another episode of Dark Rhino Security Confidential. Today, we have another great guest. He also happens to be a friend of mine, and we do business with his company as well, just so you all know. Full disclosure there, but it's Sanjay Chopra. Sanjay is a great golfer. He can knock the ball 300 yards. But when he's not doing that, he's the CEO of Cognistx. And when he's not doing that, he is on the Federal Reserve Bank board in Cleveland, Ohio. He is a Carnegie Mellon grad, has several degrees. He teaches e-commerce as an adjunct professor at Carnegie Mellon. And as I might want to remind you folks, this is a lot of work, and we appreciate you folks listening, but we always love a little bit of love. Smash and like the subscribe button. Leave your comments below. We'll be sure to answer them. He's just a very smart guy, and we're honored to have him here. Sanjay, thank you for taking your time.
Of course, Manoj, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be with you. It is a pleasure to know you. And you are awesome to golf with, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
See, now, as soon as you said that, everybody that knows me is going to say, now we know all credibility is lost, because they know I go for a walk and golf gets in the way of it, whereas you actually golf and the walk gets in the way of it. So
there are two types of golfers. One who would be really good and can be fun to play with, or people who may not be that good but are still a lot of fun to play with. So it's important to be fun to play with.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. The serious crowd, I'm kind of out of. But for our audience, everybody loves the origin story, so we want to start there. Give us your background. How, before you were CEO of Cognistx, what were you doing, and how did this all happen? Like, how did your career progress?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So it shouldn't be a surprise. I grew up in India, and my dad was actually in the Indian Army. So I grew up all over India. So it was quite an experience, sort of, getting to meet new people, getting to travel different parts of the country, see everybody. One of our postings, that's what we call them in the Army, I got introduced to a computer, and I was able to spend some time in 8th and ninth grade and really play with it and program it in BASIC and other things. And me and my brother used to sit together every opportunity we got. We started programming. We made a car racing game. We made all sorts of fun stuff. And we really got engaged into it. And that sort of dwelled into us getting into engineering colleges. And then both of us came to the US together back in 1990. I went to Virginia Tech, got a master's in computer science. He went to State University of New York, Buffalo. In about 2 months after fall session, he calls me and tells me, this place is really cold.
Compared to India, yes.
No, this is Buffalo, New York.
I know, but I assume that from India, Buffalo is a polar it's actually polar.
It really is. But, Virginia was a beautiful place, and I really got more into computer science, more into programming. Came to Pittsburgh, worked for a company called Carnegie Group. That was also a spin-off of Carnegie Mellon University. So we are actually doing AI before AI was popular under, Dennis Yablonsky and some other people, Dr. Raj Reddy. And I was working on a Department of Defense project. Eric Nyberg, who also is my co-founder at Cognistx, he was working on the Caterpillar project. So we were both in the same organization. Oh my gosh, almost 30 years ago. And since then, I had got another master's at the business school at Tepper at Carnegie Mellon.
And so you're a full-time student. You just
full-time student. Yes, I love going to school. So after that degree, I actually got $18 million in venture money and started a company called Online Choice. So we were aggregating demand for essential services. Then we started another company, Intellions, where we were able to sell the IP and technology to Google. So in fact, you'll find this interesting is one of the patents we had was on based on time and location doing a search. So find a
Oh,
pizza place close to me on my cell phone, and we had
so
a patent on
you're responsible for all the privacy problems. So
it. We just filed the patent, and obviously Facebook, everybody else wanted to get that technology, but ended up selling it to Google, and then I was at Giant Eagle and IBM in the middle, where we were helping build Watson and also Curbside Express and some of the other projects at Giant Eagle. But then I got bored. I said, hey, we got to start another company again. And we started Cognistx with Eric. It's been 9 years. And we started initially, Manoj, as a bespoke AI company where we were doing custom AI applications. And we quickly figured out that's not a very scalable model. It's human capital intensive, and you need to get more people, get more data scientists, deliver the projects, and then continue to find projects.
right.
And since then, we have had a couple of great products: Data Quality Engine and Square, now which has morphed into SQUARY, which is what we have also are uh, deploying with you guys
That's right.
and get that going as well. And that seems to be getting a lot of traction. It's all based on natural language processing. Uh, so that's a quick, long answer to yours. To what got me
No, that's
excited and
actually a
how
very
did I
short
get there?
answer because I have a couple follow-up questions on this. So
Sure.
out of curiosity, that first computer, what was it that you and your brother were playing with?
So it was a DOS and then an Atari system. We hooked it up to an Atari system to do games and gaming on associated with it.
That's awesome. See, people will appreciate that. Those relics actually go for some money now. So,
Really?
but that was a curiosity. And then when you started with AI at CMU, what back then we did not have the compute power that we do today, right? We not even close. We didn't have a lot of the functional applications and things that are available now. Back when I looked at it in the early 90s, it was a lot of it was Lisp. I don't know if you remember that.
I
Lisp.
programmed in Lisp.
Did you?
Lisp
So,
initially, and then we moved to C++ and an
yeah.
object oriented database. A lot of it was C programming, and things have changed a lot. So, what has really happened, Manoj, and this is kind of interesting, is in the last probably 6, 7 years, a few things have happened. Cloud has taken up a lot. So, the computing power from that perspective has significantly improved. Computer vision has come a long way. So, the ability for computers to be able to see and recognize objects and know how to act based on that is amazing. In fact, one of the cars, Tesla's out there, is a unimodal, single modal, purely based on computer vision, and it can drive itself reasonably well. Not quite fully
I was gonna
automated,
say,
obviously.
yeah, but okay, keep going because there's a couple questions there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the next thing that has also happened is word error rate. So as we speak, and you speak, and I speak, or anybody speaks, computers' ability to understand our words has gone up significantly. In fact, computers can understand us better than we can understand each other. And the last thing that's happened really recently in the last 6, 9 months is the advent of large language models like GPT with OpenAI and everything else, being able to then answer questions based on the entire information on the web. And that sort of is these things are really changing the landscape significantly from an AI perspective compared to what we were able to do back then with expert systems and list
Yeah,
programming and all
those
that
expert.
stuff.
It was a giant list. It was like programming a game of chess, right? I mean, here are all the permutations, combinations, and whatnot. But so how? A couple things. You said that computers understand us better. What is do you have any idea on what an error rate is between you and I talking versus what a computer would?
99.97% for computers.
Really?
Also, it can deal with context very, very well. Sort of, uh, see, because humans can be absent-minded and lose the context, or I was not paying attention. I
Especially
was
after a
focusing.
couple scotches on a golf course, sure.
I was focusing more on getting Coca-Cola, but computers focus and they know the context, and they have been trained on so much data now where they can really figure out what word you'll be uttering next. And in fact, we see that quite a bit even now if you use Gmail or G Suite. The type ahead functions are amazing as to, hey, this is what you are going to thinking about and typing, and it sort of completes your sentences for you. If it has that kind of ability, its ability to predict what I already said, and sort of then saying that, hey, this is what I said is very, very high at this stage.
So let's look at this. Let's go to the medical industry as an example, right? So we know pathology, radiology; these professions are ripe for automation with AI. And you said that computers can see very well, given the so has it gotten good enough where the error rate on the visual scan of, say, an X-ray or an MRI is better than a human being's?
It is as good. So there is, in certain instances, it actually is better. And where I see that is actually I've looked at these studies for lung nodules being able to, computers can see patterns in a MRI or a chest X-ray that a radiologist can't, and can detect lung issues or lung cancer issues faster than humans can in this day and age.
Really?
Yes.
There, you know a lot of radiologists, probably the same ones that I do. They're not going to like that answer.
They're not going to like that. But I think the way to think about Manoj is sort of, with any AI system, is let me make you better. We, in fact, did a little study where we were able to triage emergency room visitors and rule out appendicitis. So they said, hey, if you can do that, that would be great. And what the AI does is, if somebody comes in, they get an MRI, and we can put a bounding box around here is the appendix, and here is the likelihood of this person having appendicitis, so that you could triage them and move them and take appropriate action, right? Uh, Now think about this. If we can bring those readings at the top of the deck so the radiologist can take a look at it quickly, the quality of care has gone up. You still always have a human in the loop, but the bulk of the grunt work is being done by the AI, where then the radiologist looks at it, validates it, verifies it, moves forward. That's the productivity gain, and that's the ability. And think about, for third world countries or people, there are not that many radiologists. Even certain states in the
Yeah,
United States fall in that
sure.
category. This becomes huge.
Oh, I can see if if people have confidence and the actual results are showing a high degree of fidelity, it has huge implications. Because, see, I came from the aircraft industry back when I was a real engineer. I haven't been one in a long time, but and their automation has been the cause of failures, right? And now one could argue that it was the interaction between the human and the automation that caused the failure, where the human didn't understand what some of these advanced aircraft systems were trying to do. Um, but if somebody said to me, just again, given my background in the space, that we're going to have a pilotless airplane and it'll fly itself, I don't know that I'd be getting on that airplane, even if it was 99.97%, or even if it was 99.9997%, because when shit hits the fan, it actually really hits the fan.
Yeah,
And
that's when you need a pilot. But even now, I don't know about this as much as you do, but let's say Airbus, the fly-by-wire system, It
Yep.
can take off. It can, do autopilot. It can route itself.
It can do everything.
It can land the plane, but you
Sure.
always want to have the pilot sitting there so that the pilot can take over when needed. And that's the beauty. A pilot doesn't need to be in front of the thing and monitoring it constantly, but as long as the alerts come at the right time or he's always there available to take over, that's the thing. And I know sort of the Boeing Max has had some issues where it was too advanced or it wasn't proper training, but that is also very important. So as you roll out sort of these systems, AI or other, robotics or robotics based automation systems or fly by wire, you need to have the training. You need to have all the checks and balances in place for the productivity gain and sort of for the man and machine or human and machine to work together.
Does so this would be an interesting experiment. If Are we creating a condition where humans are going to second guess their own confidence or their own expert opinion based on what the AI is saying? So they may not agree. The radiologist may not agree with the AI, or the pilot may not agree with a certain decision, but they may leave it to the machine and say, you know what, maybe it is right, and I'm just going to let it go.
Hopefully not. And that's the training we need to do. It's a tool to aid and assist you, not to replace you or not for
Well,
you to rely on
I
blindly.
think NPR had a story yesterday or the day before on a police department that is using going. Google sold them on the idea of being able to use AI to write police reports, which are hugely time consuming thing. And part of it was what you were saying, that the prediction of what is going to be said is gotten really good, right? And the worry is that that has serious legal consequences. And the cops may just say, yeah, you know what? Let the AI write it. Yeah, I'm supposed to look at it, but the temptation, who's going to read a 20-page document, right? They're going to look at it and say, yeah, you know what? It looks about right. Check, go, right?
But here's
And
what I would say. Then Google's AI implementation, I'm not familiar with what they're doing with this police department, should be the following. We'll write the report. Minimum, you need to verify and validate the summary of the report, check certain key points or key paragraphs or key items in that report before you can submit it. Now you've put the checks and balances in place to do that. So imagine, it's very easy even for our AI to summarize, what Dark Rhino does. And without anybody in your team looking at it, we can say, hey, this sounds great, let's make it live. You're not going to do that. We're not going to let you do that. We will have the team verify, validate all the answers, make sure it's pulling the information from the right place, it's summarizing things appropriately, and then displaying it. And that's the combination. That's what needs to happen. And if somebody is taking a shortcut, then they need to be reprimanded for that.
well, let's see how that plays out. I mean, that is, in fact, you're absolutely right, but that is certainly the danger.
Yeah.
Um,
So the same thing also applies. Actually, think about this. If for students to do homework, I can very easily use ChatGPT or some large language model to help me with my homework. But if I really don't understand the concept, and that's shame on me. But if I'm using the AI to do the basic research, learn from it, and then enhance it and take it to the next level, I will become a better student and then a better employee or a better CEO for that matter.
we'll be right back after a word from our sponsor, Kiteworks. Defense contractors face immense pressure to comply with CMMC 2.0 security standards. Finding a secure, easy to use file sharing solution meeting CMMC 2 guidelines is a major challenge. The federal government and federal system integrators supporting the Department of Defense have similar compliance requirements for improving cybersecurity and data protection. Accelerate your CMMC 2.0 compliance and address federal zero trust requirements with Kiteworks' universal secure file sharing platform made for defense contractors. Visit kiteworks.com to get started, provided you have the character traits to actually want to engage it. And because we've seen this right now, there's some law firm, I forget who it was. I wouldn't mention their name anyways. We met at an event here in Pittsburgh. They were saying they had to pull back on ChatGPT use because there were associates who were saying, look at this case law and tell me what this says. And it doesn't always get it right.
It doesn't. Especially large language models that are trained on the entire corpus of the web have inherently hallucination built into them. And what I mean by hallucination...
what does that term mean? Because hallucination for this audience might mean a lot of things. And so...
Yeah. So what it means is basically the AI, because of the architecture, transformer architecture and other things, and it's a stochastic models at the end of the day, it can make stuff up. Very high probability, if I say, hey, where are Sanjay and Manoj from? If I just ask a generic question, it'll more than likely say from India.
Yeah.
But little do it doesn't know they're from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It lost all that context, right? So that is important. So the AI hallucinates and can make up facts, which is very, very tricky when you are in the medical field or in the legal field. But there is a way to fix that, where what we can do is train it on the corpus of documents that are right case law, the right corpus, LexisNexis or other things.
Yeah.
And then you can eliminate the hallucination, sort of, not really eliminate it, but reduce it significantly where by training it on the right things, by doing prompt engineering and other methods like that, hallucination can be reduced significantly. And that is what sort of, we actually do that with our product SQUARE for the aerospace industry. With Society of Automotive Engineers, with when you're looking at airplane standards, right, and you want to look at a part or a material and see which bolt was there, and what if I replace this bolt, more tungsten, less steel, what all standards get impacted? I better get a good answer. So you need to put the human in the loop. You need to test the system properly so that you are the retrieval and the answers that you're getting are very, very accurate. So I think these are great tools. And also there's a new concept, RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Sort of is basically the idea there is to be able to first extract the right pieces, then use the LLM to synthesize and summarize everything. Then you get the fantastic results that you're looking.
But okay, so even in that case, it's rendering an opinion. Why? So what prevents the system from saying, look, I don't know the answer to this, but based on what I have, my opinion is the following. So that's no different than what you and I would do, right? I mean.
Yep. So what you tell the system is, I don't want you to give me your opinion. Only answer the question if you know factually it's the accurate answer. Otherwise, just tell me I don't know the answer. And it does that now, which is how you eliminate or significantly reduce hallucination. Think about that. Now you're saying that, hey, why is Sanjay, mine is not a good example. Why is Manoj wearing that shirt? Nobody knows. Not even Manoj knows why is he wearing that shirt today, right?
No, it was what was ironed in the closet this morning.
Right? But it could come up with a story when Manoj wake up, it was slightly gray outside and here is what was going on. And in a fall day, this is his favorite color to wear, hence he's wearing the shirt. And I just made a lot of stuff up. But I say, hey,
it's
plausible. Don't make stuff up. Just say, I don't know why Manoj is wearing that shirt. That's a better answer than some
Yeah,
made
that's
up
a
stuff.
better answer. But everything you otherwise said could be plausible too, and it could start a rumor, right?
Yes.
But everybody who knows me knows there's no way that's what happened. So, you know, when
But
it's
honestly, Manoj, that is a great example of hallucination and how to avoid
oh, yeah, there you go.
it. So,
Yeah, if you don't know the answer, state that. What do you
and
think the
and I wish,
likelihood is?
honestly, and I wish we could train a lot more humans to do that as well.
Yes, I mean that it seems like everybody has an answer for everything, right? Instead of that, I don't know,
I don't know.
right?
Or here are the
Uh,
facts, and that's all I know.
And at least in the engineering and science field, that's a very good answer because if you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know.
Like your example, you don't want to put a titanium bolt against a material where there might be some kind of electrolytic action and it weakens it, right? You might
Exactly.
say, "Oh yeah, it's titanium, man. This thing's solid." Well, yeah, it's going to eat through the material. Now what? Now your wing fell off. That kind of sucks. you know,
Or part of the wing. It's happened.
it's happened. I mean, that would be a really bad day for some people. So,
Yeah.
those things they matter. Now, I wanted to back up a little bit because AI has become ubiquitous. I think you could probably buy toilet fixtures with AI built into them at this point, right? If not, they are coming to a store near you, I'm sure, in the very near future. When the term AI is used, could you, for primarily a cybersecurity audience, dissect what is meant by AI? Okay, so people understand large language models as like some kind of a pattern recognition, but that's not the only kind of AI that there is. Could you
Yeah.
give a very quick primer?
Absolutely. I would absolutely do that. So obviously large language model is a subset of AI called natural language processing and question answering within question
Yeah.
natural language processing, and that's what it is. But the whole idea behind artificial intelligence is for computers or machines to behave and do tasks like humans would do. And actually, Alan Turing had the had the right ideas early on, and he says if you can't tell if it was being done by a human or by a machine, it kind of passes the Turing tests, and that becomes very interesting. So, sort of, playing
Hmm.
chess as good or better than human beings was a great first step. And then obviously being able to play Jeopardy, and part of the Jeopardy challenge was a great second test. Being able to drive a car now is amazing, and now it can create content and it can do everything. So the broader field of AI is artificial intelligence or machines having human-like intelligence. That's a very easy way to think about it.
But that's not to be confused with consciousness for the conspiracy theorists who are listening.
Absolutely not to be confused with consciousness.
Right. So these machines have limitations, very much.
Significant limitations. I mean, initially, like it was expert system, if this, if then else statements, like and
Yeah.
then being able to predict or do regression analysis, and then statistical modeling, and then be able to say, hey, what is the likelihood? What's the temperature, average temperature in Pittsburgh in September? And it would come up with a pretty good answer. Obviously, looking at all the data, and then being able to do other tasks like understand you and I talking and then respond or typing a text for me. But there is no consciousness there. It's what we have trained the systems to do. There is a little bit of it coming where it's making stuff up, the hallucination part of it, but it's not
Yes.
consciousness. It's just, the way they have been programmed.
I'm going to put a pin in that one because I'm going to come back to it because it gets into the
Okay.
world of since we're on a cybersecurity podcast, let's talk about cyber AI in cybersecurity, right? In
Absolutely.
data analysis. Now, there's a lot of places that I can think of where we could obsolete a lot of roles, and I think it would actually be a good thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
what is your take on it? What are you seeing as an expert in this area?
So think about it, sort of if we have network systems or packets coming across your network and some traffic seems to be very irregular or things that you've never seen in the past, let AI detect those things, bring them to the knowledge of a human operator, and then sort of be able to act on it, either act on it autonomously or, in conjunction with the human.
That's what the guys at Darktrace tried to do, right?
Yes. Also, sort of think about this if to mine all the information that's out there on the deep dark web. We've actually worked on that a little bit with a local company here, and then say predict things as before, be able to predict a breach before a data breach happens. So show
See,
me how
that's
many.
very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. So show me how many times emails and passwords for, let's say, LinkedIn as an example, or Yahoo accounts, or any
Doesn't
account,
matter.
or AT&T accounts are there on the dark web, and how many of these exist? Because what the bad actors do is they accumulate this over time with various vulnerabilities, and once they have a critical mass, then the breach happens. But if you can detect early on, you can actually prevent the breach from happening and say, hey, everybody come here, let's change everybody's password and have multi-factor authentication and all the other things built into it. That's a pretty useful tool. Being able to find a needle in a haystack. Uh, and I don't know if this is a good example or not to use. Uh, so think about this, being able to mine all the information on the various social media sites, and then from a security perspective, predict which actors are going to act based on what they have posted and resort to gun violence in schools or other areas, and let the law enforcement be in front of those problems versus sort of after the fact learning about this. And AI could be very useful and say, here is where we see a lot more traffic, here is what we are analyzing from that perspective, and do that as well. So
See,
there's a
things like that might, I don't know if you remember the Tom Cruise movie Minority Report,
minority report, yes.
right? Doesn't that get to a dystopian future where we may be accusing people of things that, maybe I'm just an upset guy.
Yeah, yeah. But there is a upset guy, but an upset guy who has the propensity to take action. That's the nuance that maybe the human intelligence needs to be built in from that perspective.
I see in cyber, and there is an opportunity, a huge opportunity. And for the life of me, I don't know why venture capitalists keep funding these sim companies. I just don't get it. Or XDR, or, whatever term they want to use. Why can't we use AI to, one, teach systems the way we would go about breaching an organization?
Yep. Ethical hacking.
Ethical or unethical? Unethical is even better. What was actually done to make the wheels fall off the bus?
Yep.
Not what theoretically can be done, but what was genuinely done. Okay.
Yep.
Now you can create a huge landscape of, okay, this is how a breach is likely to be engineered. And I'm using that term very specifically. So there's vulnerabilities that can be exploited. But if you want to get into Dark Rhino, we're pretty good about those things. But
Right.
what could be a problem is doing what the CIA or NSA or those guys would do, which is pick a target and then engineer that target for a breach. Understand their behaviors, understand how to message them, understand how to make them take a certain action that leads to a exploitation of a vulnerability, right? It would be so cool if somebody actually went out and built this facility, because now you could deploy it and look at an organization and say, all right, if I was going to engineer a breach at ABC Corp, tell me the best ways to go about doing
I
this.
think that's a great application of AI. And then it
Right.
can run through all these various permutations and combinations and say, and then give you an assessment of here is the most likely way somebody would breach, and here are all the preventions you need to take from that perspective. And actually, a good example of that is also fraud detection at banks. That would be
Oh,
a great
that,
application.
that's off again, where if the human is engineering lack of leaving a paper trail, right?
Yeah,
How would fraud occur, right?
right.
How to do it.
How to
And
do it.
then I guess the counterpoint is to also then gamify that and say, well, now run simulations like chess and say, all right, if this is going to be the approach, what will the operations center see on their screen? And
Correct.
what is their likely to be their response? And how do we block that response? Because now, we start getting into it. People would be like, well, this guy is scary. If this is out there, then bad actors are going to make a lot of money. Well, bad actors are going to make a lot of money regardless, and nothing will be 100% breach proof. But by doing something like this, what it would really identify is those nuanced gaps that become the
Yep.
means of infiltration, right? And that
Yep.
could be a person, a process, or a technology.
Agreed. I,
Could it be done? Does the compute power exist to do this kind of a thing today?
it absolutely does in this day and age. You can run these simulations, you can um, work in conjunction with the human analysts, train them and make them better. And that is a much better way of doing it. And I'm hoping NSA and the FBI and other people are sort of working on these kind of things to protect us, because bad actors and even bad nations out there are definitely using these tools much more to sort of harm our society or harm our political process and other processes. Being able to detect and act is huge from that perspective.
What deep dark web? Is there an application here?
Significant applications in the deep dark web. So, sort of, and I'm reasonably familiar with that space. Actually, my wife is very familiar with that space, Anju.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, she works for a company called Kroll, and then before that, another company where they were mining all the information on the deep dark web. They could tell which bin numbers, bank identification numbers, the first, I think, 6 to 8 digits of a credit card numbers, how many of them have been exposed on the dark web, so that you know what banks have exposure, and predict breaches or credit card fraud before it happens, and let the bank know to notify the people that, hey, your credit card number has been found on the dark web, what travel itineraries are available, what other sensitive documents, government sensitive or other national security sensitive documents are available on the deep dark web, what email IDs and passwords are being traded. All these things are there, that sort of can be, if can be monitored and prevented. And there was another thing about sort of with child pornography. It's called Innocent Images
Okay.
Project, where you can sort of be able to see what the source are and where these images and content is being produced, so you could kill it from a source and not prevent it from happening and prevent it from being distributed on the dark web or other sites like that. So huge implications for uh, security and not just from a cybersecurity perspective, but even societal security perspective, if we monitor and act upon these things from the dark web.
That changes it, which it's a game changer for open source intelligence in our profession.
Yes.
If somebody can make that available to all of us who would like to do it. you know,
There might be companies that do that. You should talk to Anju about it or other people to see who's really done well in terms of mining information on the dark web and synthesizing it and making it available. Hey, I'm interested in XYZ feeds. And if these things happen, let me know and gather that information and intelligence for me. So it's something absolutely to look at.
okay. I I have a basic question. When you're building an LLM or any kind of an AI system here, my mindset is still we have to say, okay, this is an elephant. If we're going to train it to be a detect animals, I don't know, we're making a stupid example. Well, then we have to train it on, does it have ears? Does it have a tail? Is it big? It sounds like there would be a billion attributes that one would have to educate a system on. But I know that's not what you guys are doing. So how is the sausage made? Like in layman's terms, how do you actually go about training this without needing a degree in mathematics and statistics?
Absolutely. So this one is actually a reasonably easy to do this day and age. Easier, but it's not foolproof. Think
Okay.
about this. You take a lot of training data
Okay.
and you show elephants in all shapes and sizes and dimensions of elephants possible to the computer and tell
Right.
it these are all elephants, learn, and then you ask, show another picture. And it says, is this an elephant? And see what the response is, how good the response is, its ability to predict with certainty. And then obviously show some negative cases also. So where you've shown it as a buffalo or a buffalo with a trunk or, Dumbo sort of, or a
Yeah.
cartoon character versus an actual elephant and see if we can detect it. And then use that training data also to make the models better and better over time. So now then you will have a very over sort of have through these iterations have a model to your point that will be able to detect elephants with very high degree of accuracy and say that hey, yep. And ideally, what you should be able to do is this is an elephant, but this is an elephant from likely from Africa or an elephant that is a cartoon elephant that is being used in these books. So that's the level of sophistication. If you can get, the AI will do phenomenally well.
And you're not, that's all happening at the level of the neural network. You're not creating attributes like in a database that are
So the
actual.
old way was to use attributes in a database and use models to do that. But now
Right.
neural nets and deep learning models can sort of very easily be trained. They already have been trained on these large data sets to be able to make these predictions and then come up with, yep, this is an elephant and I'm very confident. But it will not be foolproof. You will still need a human in a loop sometimes to say, this is not isn't an elephant, sort of, what are you talking about? And that's where the radiologist needs to come in as
Come
well,
in and say,
part
yeah,
of our earlier conversation.
yeah, that's not cancer. That's just indigestion.
Yes.
So, which gets to, Microsoft's been pushing Copilot a lot in the customer base. Now,
No.
one of the dangers is revealing too much data, right? Or even revealing too much data with ChatGPT. I mean, I can tell you we've done it to look up our competitors' information. You can find people upload contracts to ChatGPT and say, analyze this and tell me what might be missing or what can be changed. Well, little do they know that that data is now available to
Yes. It's
everybody.
available, but what you need to do if you're doing that, you need to prompt the large language model to tell it not to use it for training purposes and not to save it or store it and delete it after you've analyzed it for me.
Well, good luck with that. I can tell you the average person is absolutely not doing that. And
Correct.
that's from personal experience, I can tell you. And if you unleash Copilot, now
It's the same
everybody can look
problem.
up everybody's salary. Yeah, let's go into HR, see what they got going on,
And Microsoft will have access to all these tools. So the right organization that wants to go the Microsoft route, wants to use Copilot with SharePoint and whatever, file system where all their information is needs to tell Copilot and OpenAI in that case, the large language model, that hey, here is what I don't want you to do. Here are the parameters what I want to take. Don't keep any of our information. Delete this, and then you put those guardrails in place before you let your employees run with systems like this. Another downside of sort of doing it with Copilot or just with Microsoft is OpenAI, don't get me, this is a great LLM, and it's fantastic results, and it continues to do well. But there are other models that are very good also, like AWS Bedrock, Gemini, Llama, Claude, Anthropic's models, and other things. One thing, sort of, it's a little plug for us, is what we can also do is, and what anybody should be looking at doing is, for certain applications, see what the best LLM is that's giving you the best results. Continue to monitor it and then use it so that you get the best of all worlds. So that's another sort of way to think about this from an enterprise search or information extraction, information retrieval, question answering systems perspective.
Which gets us to, what exactly does Cognistx do?
So, like I said earlier, we have 3 products. So when we started out with this data quality engine because, Manoj, what we found out was people wanted us to build AI systems and their data was messy and had lots of errors. So the
Okay.
first thing, and if it's garbage in, garbage out, if you think about this, you want me to do route planning and optimization, and you don't know the addresses of your customers, where they're located, or the size of the tank that they have in the case of propane distribution company. And then me predicting when will you need and where do I need to deliver. And I go to deliver and Manoj is no longer in Shadyside. He's moved to Fox Chapel. I just made that up, right?
Yep.
And he's now got a bigger tank and all the other stuff has changed. So first is to clean the data. That's the data quality engine. And then building analytics on top of it. So that's one aspect of Cognistx. The other aspect is what I call the sexy aspect is with SQUARE and SQUARY. And it's the ability to look at either your URLs or website information or your corpus of documents, your knowledge base, your standards documents, and then being able to ask questions. What happens if I change this bolt? What all standards get impacted? Show me all the podcasts that Manoj has done related to breach detection, sort of, and it finds all this.
Which is actually a legit question that you're helping to solve for us.
Yes. So those are the things that Square does, and how we differentiate from, let's say, Microsoft or anybody else there. We'll obviously do it on your corpus of documents. We will do the prompt engineering and share or not share information based on your likings, deliver the results to you, and also we are LLM agnostic. So we remove hallucination as much as possible. We give you the best LLM model to give the best answers, and that sort of is the secret sauce behind Square and SQUARE.
So, and is SQUARY deployed in the cloud, or can it be deployed in the customer's own private cloud?
It can be deployed in the customer's own private cloud. That's a big differentiator.
Yeah, I was going to say. So they actually control their data
Correct.
in
And
its
all
entirety.
our tools, whether it's Square and SQUARE, we have designed them in a way where only information is sent to the large language model in memory. It doesn't use it for training purposes, and then it should delete or not sort of keep that information, which also is very important.
Wow, very cool. Uh, so I guess in saying that, then you guys do compete a little bit with Copilot, but you can get very specific in your application And I know for us, you're doing a much better job. For us to do this with Copilot would have been
Harder.
no, yeah,
Yes.
not doing it.
Because also what we have done is, and we haven't talked about this, is let's say this podcast, which has both audio and video. And if I want to search and say, what are all the places in this podcast where Manoj and Sanjay were talking about the aerospace industry and applications of AI for airlines or issues that have been with the airlines? What it would do is actually go to those particular minutes or segments without spending in an hour or so, sort of, and say, here is 2 3 minutes where they, or maybe a minute or so, they talked about it. Here is another thing, and by the way, here are all the key points that they discussed, so you can get the answers quicker that way. And then obviously link back to the source document, so let them listen to the podcast and sort of enjoy our conversation.
Sanjay, what is the limitation that we're facing right now that's going to limit this technology as to where it can go? And two-part question: where do you see the future of this headed?
Yep. So limitation still is, it's pretty, even though the compute power is there, it takes a lot of computation and a lot of energy to train these large language models. So you can do it as frequently. These are sometimes are becoming bulky, too bulky. It's hard to change. It's very expensive to change. It's very expensive to modify. And same thing happens in a lot of other areas. Sort of, I think things are evolving, but things are evolving faster. But there are still limitations from a computation perspective and from an ability to be able to take it to the next level. But in the future, I see this accelerating and going faster and faster, and being able to do ability to do many more things. I mean, think about this. Our ability to talk to Siri and respond to a text is, we take it for granted, and
Yeah.
then it's not that old feature. It's probably 3 4 5 years old, where I could get a text, it would read the text to me, I would narrate to it, and I know it's doing such a fantastic job now because of the word error rate and all the other stuff. I just take it for granted. Being able for it to be able to drive a car automatically is huge, especially if it can do it in India.
I don't think it's gotten that advanced yet.
No, it's not. No.
No.
So there are limitations, but it's heading in the right direction.
That's just chaos. Good luck with that. Yeah.
But the thing is, it'll continue to get better and better. Computation will get better, and also multimodal things coming together: speech, text, computer vision, um, tremendous amount of pre-trained models to run this information against will give you very significant applications, both in all sorts of fields. So I think that's kind of where AI is heading from a future perspective.
Where do you want to take Cognistx?
Cognistx, we'd be happy with a few hundred very happy customers that continue to use our products and continue to use our services and continue to grow, and see whether we can get an exit with an IPO or get acquired. I think that's kind of what I see in the future.
Okay. Well, for our audience, we will be launching the virtual CISO bot here very shortly, and that's all in his team's work. So when we launch that, we will let you know, and you guys should absolutely jump on it and give it a go for real, and see what the
Absolutely.
capable of. But also,
and SQUARY is available on quite a few websites for people to give it a try, and they should definitely do that.
Tell us a couple.
So Muskingum Watershed, remember you and I went to the golf outing?
Yeah.
They're using it. They have actually a very cool logo called Bryce, which is an eagle. That's their logo. And think about it, Bryce sort of can tell you all the information about their website, what marina is available, when can I rent boats, where I can go camping, can I make a campfire, can I bring my own propane tank? You have all these questions Either you have to spend the time and look at the website or call somebody and get the questions answered, and sort of it'll do it for you. We're going to be launching with Fly Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh International Airport, East Ohio Regional Hospital has it, and company AI Room has it. Quite a few. We have about a dozen or so active installations right now.
Fantastic. Well, we're at the last minute here. I want to give you a chance to plug whatever it is you would like to plug. Let our audience know about.
So I would say, Manoj, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And, I think this is a great thing that you're doing, sort of educating people. I think telling people about technology, telling them about cybersecurity, telling them about AI is important. Telling them with credible people is important. And I think this is a great cause. And I thank you for the opportunity to present.
Well, we really appreciate you we know you're very busy, taking the time to do this.
Awesome.
And you know what? As you progress, don't be a stranger here. If you want to make an announcement, let us know.
We'll do that.
And we'd love to get you back. Let the audience know about.
Yes.
About you.
So I would say the last thing I would say, all of us use technology safely and effectively going forward.
Sounds like great advice. Thank you, Sanjay.